Hey guys, this is obviously not one of my usual in-studio videos. This is just off the cuff. I'm in the woods visiting family this week, and I just wanted to touch on a few things. Unless you've been living under a rock, you are probably aware of this stuff. 3 or 4 major developments in the synth universe. Number one, Roland announced version 3.0 for the Juno-X series of synths. This is big. It might not be as big as you realize, but those synths were already really cool. But now it's like they're a whole different ball game, and it's probably a video for another time. But I went from really liking the Juno-X to, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I love the Juno-X. It stands at the top of the heap with anything else in my studio. Roland has done a slam dunk job on completely revamping those and bringing out a whole new engine and all that kind of stuff. I'll talk about that in another video. Number 2, Roland also really dropped a pebble in the pond with the announce of the Juno-X, which is kind of a modern recreation, modern reimagining of the Juno 106. And as usual, there was an instant chorus of belly aching from the usual contingent, decrying the fact that why won't Roland give us a real analog Juno-X8, or it's a VST in a box, it sounds plastic, it sounds artificial, it doesn't sound like a real Juno-X8 or 106. You know, and you just gotta wonder, I mean, do these people actually listen to stuff, or are they just spouting opinions that are based on 20-year-old paradigms of, of plugins that admittedly did not sound like the real deal back in the day? Again, probably another video for another time.
Everything is amazing right now, and nobody's happy. And it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots that don't care, because this is what people are like now. They got their phone and they're like, ugh.
I'll just go out on a limb here. Kudos to Roland. The Juno-X is absolutely remarkable. It sounds fantastic. Not gonna get into all that. Okay, number 3, the real big piece of news. Oberheim is back. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that the OB-X8 was leaked at first on the internet, and then a couple days later it was officially unveiled at Super Booth. And before I go any further, huge props to Dave Smith of Sequential for being such a gentleman, being such a cool guy to help Tom Oberheim get his name back and the Oberheim logo. Awesome stuff. Okay, so anyway, what do we know about the OB-X8? It's essentially a modern take on the 3 OB series synths, the OB-X, the OB-X8, and the OB-8. It's got features of all 3, different filter models and so on. And just like with Roland, you've got the usual contingent of people belly aching right away. It's not as good as the originals. What are they basing this on? Let's take a look.
Don't you see the danger in what you're doing here? I'll tell you the problem with this power that you're using here. We're so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Okay, so obviously those sounds are probably not the best examples of how to sell a $5,000 synth, particularly an Oberheim. I guess for whatever reason, some guys are attracted to anemic, thin-sounding digital space creatures coughing up hairballs or something. I don't know. That's what that stuff sounds like to me. When I think of an Oberheim, I don't think of those kinds of sounds. I think one word, obese. OB stands for obese. Big, fat, lush, analog pads, synth brass, basses, all in stereo because it can do that. Okay, so clearly the OB-X8 has Oberheim DNA. It can make those kinds of sounds that people expect to hear from an Oberheim. Now, for those reviewers who are going to be lucky enough to have an OB-X8 in their hands soon, especially those of you who are fortunate enough to have the vintage originals, the OB-X, the OB-X8, and the OB-8, would you do us a favor? Would you give us some glimpses of these kinds of sounds side by side with the originals? Those are Oberheim sounds. The point I'm trying to make is we have yet to see a real excellent musical context demo of the OB-X8 in the wild. What we have seen is a handful of guys who've got pre-production units, sound designers, a couple of which are really good. And you know, again, you've got guys making their mind up. I'm pulling my pre-order. I'm not gonna go through with that after all. I'm not interested. It just doesn't have the mojo of the originals. And they're basing this on the few clips they've heard on YouTube. I just think that it's probably premature to be forming solid opinions about a synth that nobody's had their hands on yet, other than a few sound designers. And we're at their mercy, you know? We don't know how they've recorded these things. We don't know what recording chain they've used, unless, you know, there's one or two that might have gone into detail about that. But to compare these little glimpses we've seen against videos of other synths taken at different times, different places, different recording chains. Anyway, all that to say, man, give it some time. Just wait. There's gonna be great demos out there. We just haven't heard them yet. And I don't have a dog in the hunt. I just want to see this synth being given a chance. I think it's a remarkable achievement, and I can't wait to have it because I think it totally has that Oberheim DNA. From everything I've heard, it seems to be the real deal. It seems to be the Oberheim synth that many of us have waited for decades. And, you know, just the synth community is a funny place. People get all up in arms about the goofiest stuff. And you know, at the end of the day, it's about making music. It's about whether a synth inspires you. And maybe you're one of those guys that you're only ever going to be inspired by sitting in something that's 35 or 40 years old. And if that's you, great, more power to you. I've had all the analog vintage synths I've ever wanted, and they were fun. Some of them are really inspiring. But I tell you what, I don't miss the repair bills. I'm looking forward to the OB-X8 because it seems to be a modern recreation with all the mojo of the originals. That's going to be reliable and dependable, and I know how to record. I've had a great career I'm very thankful for, and I have no doubt whatsoever I will be able to make magic with an X8, and I'm anxious for my turn. And I think I'm going to have a bottle of wine ready for that UPS driver when he pulls up, and whether he knows it or not, we're going to celebrate. So anyway, may common sense prevail. I hope whatever synths you've got, that you make the most of them. It's not about these endless picky details. It's about what you're doing with them. It's about the music, guys. So anyway, happy synthing, ladies and gents. If you've got an X8 on order, can't wait to hear what you do with it. And there you go. Talk to you later.